History Channel. I'm your host, Dylan Ward, and today we will be talking about the Civil War. Now let's start it off with Sydney and Amber.
Hi, I'm Sydney.
I'm Amber.
And today we'll be talking about segregation of South Carolina, Lee and Grant's fighting in the Battle of Bull Run.
And I will be covering the topics of Grant's Total War, KKK, and their involvement with Black Codes, fighting at Fort Sumter, and Monitor versus Merrimack. First, I'll start the segment off with Grant's Total War. On April 27, 1822, Ulysses S. Grant has taken over the Union Army in the East and is heading to battle against Lee that plans on lasting for the next 2 years. From this point on, the North has begun to take action. This is when the Total War has started. They are planning on destroying anything in their way.
You have the segregation of South Carolina that was held on the 10th of the 20th of 1860. South Carolina became the first state of slavery. In the South, they declared segregation from the U.S.
The KKK had murdered George Ashburn on March 31st in 1868. He was murdered in Columbus, Georgia. The KKK was founded in 1866 in Tennessee, and they supported Black codes that restricted civil and political rights of newly freed slaves.
Lee versus Grant fighting was held in 1861. Grant was considered a hero, which led the fight against Lee and Grant in the spring, and they were faced with life-altering decisions. They were both generals who were on two different sides fighting because they were told to, because they were on two different sides.
The fighting at Fort Sumter began April 12th to 1861. The fight was held in Charleston Harbor. It began against the Union and Confederate armies. The Union was led by Robert Anderson and P.G.T. Beauregard. He led the Confederate. The battle lasted 2 days. No lives were lost in the battle, and the Union has surrendered, resulting in the Confederate victory.
Battle of Bull Run in 1861, held on July 21st, the first real battle of the Civil War was fought. It is the fight that ended the South, and they declared a win.
Monitor versus Merrimack was the first battle that was held on sea March 8, 1862. The battle was fought on a steam freight in the Atlantic Ocean. It was a standpoint of the development of the Navy's first meeting in combat. It ended March 9th, 1862.
Welcome back to the History Channel. I'm your host, Dylan Ward. Now let's start it off with the Wani and Sydney.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about a few things called Anaconda Plan, Battle of Gettysburg, and Battle of Kennesaw Mountain.
And I will be covering the topics of the Peninsular Campaign and the Gettysburg Address.
And I'll be talking about the Battle of Chancellorsville, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the Battle of Antietam. I'm going to start off with the Battle of Antietam. It occurred September 22nd of 1862. The Antietam Creek pitied the Confederate General Robert E. Lee, who was the American and Confederate soldier, which in this situation had an army of Northerners in Virginia against the Union General George McClellan, who is also an American soldier, civil engineer, railroads, and politician. However, his army failed in Lee's attempt to invade the North.
So the Anaconda Plan is created by General Winfield Scott in 1863. The name is applied to a U.S. Union Army outline strategy. The Confederate at the beginning of the American Civil War, and the plan was to embrace the Union blockade of the southern part, and soon called the advice down the Mississippi River to cut the South into two.
And I'll be talking about the Peninsular Campaign. It is a major Union operation launched in the southeastern Virginia from March to July, and it's the first large-scale offensive in Eastern theater. George McClellan and Joseph Johnston are commanders of Union and Confederate armies in the Peninsular Campaign.
The Battle of Chancellorsville was a battle that was one of the major battles of the world fought on April 30th. And it was from April 30th through May 6, 1863. And it was the Confederate who took the victory of that one.
Battle of Gettysburg started July 1st, 1863, was a Union victory that stopped Confederates General Robert E. Lee, second of the North. More than 50,000 well fell of something during the Third Day Battle. The battle was the bloodiest battle in the American Civil War that ended with a Union victory.
The Gettysburg Address was on November 19, 1863. The 16th president gave a speech, one of the best known in history, at the dedication of Soldiers National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 4.5 months after Union armies defeated those of Confederacy of Battle of Gettysburg.
All right, and we'll end off with our little talking with the Emancipation Proclamation, and it was a proclamation and executive order to declare that all slaves were to be free.
Hi, welcome back to the History Channel. I'm your host, Dylan Ward, and today we will be talking about important people during the Civil War. Now off to Luwani, Amber, and Sydney.
Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the History Channel. Today I will be talking about the assassination of Lincoln and the 15th Amendment.
And today I'll be talking about Sherman's March to the Sea, 13th Amendment, and the Great Train Robbery.
And I'll be talking about the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, presidential reconstruction, and the election of 1877. Okay, so first we're going to start off with the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. The battle was fought on June 27, 1864 during the Atlanta campaign of the American Civil War. It became the scene for one of Atlanta's campaign's major actions in the Civil War. It resulted in a Confederate victory.
And I'm talking Sherman's March to the Sea, a military companion of American Civil War conducted through Georgia from November 15th to December 21, 1864, by Major General William Sherman, who was an American soldier, businessman, and conductor, also an author, also served as a Union Army general.
And I'll be talking about a very important event, which was the assassination of our 16th President, Lincoln. He was killed by a very well-known stage actor called John Wilkes Booth, who was a member of the prominent 19th century, and he was killed on April 4th of 1865. He was attending a play in the Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., and got shot from behind. He now rests at the Oak Ridge Cemetery, Springfield, in Illinois.
Presidential Reconstruction, it occurred in 1864. Republican Abraham Lincoln chose Andrew Jackson, a Democrat senator from Tennessee, as his vice presidential candidate to serve with him throughout his career.
13th Amendment was made to abolish slavery and involuntary starvation, except a punishment for a crime, and was passed by the Senate on April 8th of 1864, and then by the House on January 31st of 1865.
And the 15th Amendment was a U.S. Constitution that prohibits the federal state government from denying a citizen the right to vote based on the citizen's race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. This amendment was ratified in February 3rd of 1870 as the third and last Reconstitution Amendment.
The election of 1877 was an informal, unwritten deal that had settled an intensely disputed U.S. presidential election. This event ended the Reconstruction era.
The Great Train Robbery in 1903 was a silent, short Western film that only lasted 12 minutes. It was produced and directed by Edwin S. Porter. It was released October 1st of 1903 and is an archon and classic Western film with four bandits who made a train and its passengers, then marked their grand escape.
Hi, welcome back to the History Channel. I'm your host, Dylan Ward, and today we will be continuing important people and events.
Hi, good morning. So this morning we're going to be talking about a few people feeding off yesterday's conversation. My first person is Abraham Lincoln, and he's the 16th President of the United States to March 1861 to April 1865, and was assassinated. He led the U.S. through the Civil War and paved the way to abolish slavery. Then I have Jefferson Davis. He was the president of the Confederate States from the years 1861 to 1865. He was a member of a Democratic Party. He was also the 23rd U.S. Secretary of the War, serving under U.S. President Franklin. Sadly died December 6, 1889, in Rust at Hollywood Cemetery. Then I have Stonewall Jackson. He was a Confederate general during the American Civil War and is best known as a Confederate commander of General Robert E. Lee. He played a role in nearly all military engagements in the Eastern War until death. He died May 10, 1863 at 39. He is buried at Stonewall Cemetery in Virginia.
All right, and I'm gonna start off with Clara Barron. She was a pioneering nurse who founded the American Red Cross. She was a hospital nurse in the American Civil War, and she was also a teacher and a parent. Never once she attended nursing school, and so she was self-taught in that area. She died April 12th of 1912, and now rests at the North Cemetery in Massachusetts. After that, I have the Carpetbaggers. They were Southerners who moved to the South after the American Civil War during the Reconstruction in 1863 and 1877. Many Southerners denounced them, fearing they would loot and plunder the defeat of the South. And finalizing with that, I have the Scallywags. They were any Southerner who supported the federal plan of the Reconstruction after the Civil War.
And I'm going to start off with Rutherford Hayes. He was an American politician who served as the 19th President of the United States from 1877 to 1881. In office, he ended Army support for Republican state government in South and died in January 17, 1893, and he rests in Spiegel Grove State Park in Ohio. And also in the 54th Massachusetts, an infantry regiment that saw extensive service in Union Army during American Civil War was the first African American organization in northern states during Civil War, with a population of 1,100 people.
Alright guys, so we're gonna hop right back in with military training and immigration. We'll start off with military training. Military training was that the South were the ones with the military school, the best military schools, so that really gave them the advantages in the American Civil War. Immigration, it was that the larger share of immigration came to Americans seeking economic opportunities, and the Congress outlawed the importation, sorry about that guys, of the slaves in the U.S. The U.S. Civil War resulted in the emancipation of 4 million slaves.
Alright, then I have the industrial production. The North had more industrial products because they had more factories and they had more railroads to get stuff, so therefore they had more advantages.
And I'm going to wrap it up with the history of hunting and use of weapons during the Civil War. During the Civil War, rifled muskets were used by both the North and South, and also hunting during the Civil War was not as popular, but it was still around.
Hope you guys really enjoyed our little history lessons we had here with you guys. I am Luani Xavier,
Sydney Schaefer,
Dylan Moore.
Amber Kelly.
And we will
Catch you
be
later.
back. We
Catch you
will be
later.
back.
Yeah.
Bye.
Adios.